Well, Mike Sharrow, it is not often that we get to talk to someone on this podcast that has been to the White House. That's a cool thing. It's also even more rare to hear someone that has a nickname at the White House. Do you want to give us a little bit of the story here?
Yeah, well, and as a girl dad, I'll preface it with not only do I have a nickname, but when I was first going there, I took my girls with me to DC. I'm getting all dressed up in my suit. And my little girl is because, at home, I'm just goofy dad. My
Sure.
girl's like, Dad, you cannot say dumb things there. You have got to really watch what you say. It's not going to be funny if you're goofy there. I was like, hey, I am a professional grown up.
Give me some cred, daughters.
I can handle myself in public. And they're like, no, Dad, I'm just saying, don't mess this up. Like my youngest, like, Dad, do we need to come with you just to make sure?
To hold you accountable.
Yeah. So 2020 got asked to be part of the COVID recovery task force project with the vice president and serving stuff to the president. Going there for this meeting, they called and said, hey, we want to plan this big summit in the Roosevelt Room with you and a bunch of CEOs. Could you make, this Thursday or this Monday work of a certain date? And I went, oh, man, I can't. Like, can't do Thursday or can't do Monday. I was like, I can't do either. I'm taking my father-in-law on this epic canoe trip in the Boundary Waters of Minnesota. And we leave Wednesday, we get back Tuesday. And they're like, yeah, you're going to need to just change the canoe trip. And I was like, man, we planned this 2 years, promised them. It's like a bucket list trip for my father-in-law.
Let's go.
I just can't. They're like, do you want us to reschedule the whole White House schedule around your canoe trip? I'm like, no, I'm just saying I guess I'm going to miss out. Do it without me. And they call back and they're like, we need you to move your canoe trip. I'm like,
wait, they called back?
They called back.
To even ask again?
Let's just make clear. The vice president wants me to personally express, could you please just change the date? And I said, man, let's send a helicopter to get me. It's literally trekking into the no man's land. There's no cell phones, nothing. And they're like, are you are you epic canoeer? I'm like, about my dad. And they're like, okay, we'll call back. They call back hours later. And they're like, we have one alternative date, and we really recommend you make it work. Make the next Thursday.
You're going to have some issues in the United States of America.
Your Social Security's going to be revoked. Your passport's revoked. So they give me another date. I'm like, I will make that date work. And they're like, good. And so I show up. Daughters give me a briefing. I walk into the West Wing to get screened, and they're like, you're the canoe guy. And then they're like, so all the staff gather around. They're like, so are you world-class canoeer? I'm like, no, I'm a novice. And they're like, what? I'm like, but when your father has a bucket list trip that you've been working for years to deliver, you guys are going to be out of the office in a few years. I also have my family that.
Come on, dude.
That trip mattered. And they're like, you mean it wasn't even about the canoeing? I'm like, no. But for weeks, I go back to DC and they'd be like, this is Mike. He's the canoe guy. And they're like,
the canoe guy.
Yeah. So you never knew me as the canoe guy.
No, this is a new nickname I will have for you. But hey, not a lot of people can mic drop on the United States of America and make them move their plan. So hey, kudos to you. Let's be honest. Life's messy. Decisions are complex. And it's not all black and white. But these are the decisions that shape our growth. Welcome to The Tension. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Tension Podcast. We have a special one today. We have Mr. Mike Sharrow. I've known Mike for a decade, and actually that's as long as he has been the C12's CEO. And while he's too humble to say it, I'm going to force him today to talk about the amazing results and how a national brand has turned international under his leadership. But more specifically, the thing I love the most about Mike and why he's on today is because we're going to be talking about the tension of making it count. And, tensions are things that we'll never solve. We say that every episode. But this specific one is near and dear to me. In fact, we even made one of the company's themes make it count. And Mike actually spoke there. And that was so awesome. But this is a tension. And as you get to know Mike's story and his background, his upbringing, all the things we're going to go over today, you'll see this is a man that has waged war on managing that tension every hour of his day since I've known him. And so, Mike, first and foremost, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Travis, it is a fantastic privilege to finally get to join you with this.
Thank you, buddy. Well, hey, for the people that don't know you, I know a lot of people listening probably do know you, know some of the amazing things about what you've done in business, all that. Maybe start with just like family. Like, who is Mike? Who's the wonderful people that you call your family?
Yeah, yesterday was my 24th wedding anniversary to my Jackie. We both share Jackies,
Yes, we
Jacqueline,
do. Yes,
and
yes.
we're both girls.
Congrats.
Yeah, we both marry well. So I've got a Iowa farm girl, a wife Jacqueline, who we married 24 years, and a girl dad to two extraordinary ladies who are now about 15 and 12.
Wow.
And grew up in Alaska, a little north. As I tell people in San Antonio, where I now live, it's a little northwest of Dallas. So like, met my wife in Chicago and moved here about 20 years ago. And
Yep.
it's
Yep.
being a girl dad's pretty great life.
It's the best, man. It's there's a lot of emotions, and it can change by the hour. But when those hours are good, I don't know that there's a better hour.
We're well taken care of, though.
That's true. Mine are a little younger. That is true for you.
It gets better.
I might be doing a little more than taking care of at this stage. But well, Mike, let's do a little professional background for everyone out there. I mean, yes, the last decade has been serving as the fearless leader of C12, but maybe give a little bit more on just like what have you done professionally?
Sure, yeah. Thumbnail sketch. Went to school in Chicago where I met my wife. We actually were in college, and I got the privilege. Actually, I started out doing some work in a financial services firm, doing like defined pension plans and wealth management,
Yeah.
retirement plans, and then was part of a startup of the Walgreen Company. It's spent about 8 years with their corporate offices up in Chicago, and that's where it's like one of those like blurry chapters of your career where you just do a ton of things, but you learn so much. And so
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
just awesome period. Left that to actually work at a church for 3 years, helping be the executive pastor and lead through that. Church we were attending was just going through some stuff, and I agreed to serve there, and that was cool. And went back into healthcare, led some healthcare companies, and then got involved in C12 initially as a customer like 16 years ago. And I
Yep.
became a full-time regional leader. We're a for-profit franchise model, so I ended up leading a franchise locally. And then about 10 years ago, took over the parent company to lead the global team. Those are kind of
Which,
the
by the way, shout out to anyone listening. If you are a Christian CEO, executive, and you're like, I really wish I had a community of people I can talk to that aren't necessarily in my company. And I want to know, like, what are they thinking about? How can they challenge me, keep me accountable? How can I learn new, relevant content? All of these things. You should look up C12. It's amazing. I've been a part of it now for almost a decade, and it has been a life changer for me, my businesses, my marriage, my parenting. It's been awesome. So just shout out there. But so, Mike, as you think about this tension,
Mhm.
that's why you're on. You've got so many things. You talk around the world, but we're specifically talking about the tension of making it count.
Yeah.
Let's just do some table stakes, some foundation setting for our dialogue we're going to have. What is making it count? Like, I think let's define that. And then as you answer it, why is it a tension and why can't we just solve?
Well, that's huge. I was thinking about a moment where it crystallized for me, maybe where I began to have language. I think I've been wrestling with it for a long time. I didn't have good language. Jackie and I were married a couple years in Chicago, and I took her to a small theater production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It was
Okay.
like intimate theaters. There was like 80 people, and we're in the theater. And theater's not my thing, but it's her thing. But man, it like sucker punched me. There's a scene where Ebenezer Scrooge has gone through his radical transformation after the three spirits, and he's
Sure.
become this generous, benevolent guy, and he's giving away stuff. And one of his business partners in the play comes and says, Ebenezer, if you keep acting like this, it's going to be bad for business. And he looks at him and he gets this like fiery look in his eyes. He slams his fist on the table and he goes, from now on, mankind will be my business.
Come on.
And he just says it with such like resolve. Like, I don't usually cry, and like tear came to my eye. I was like, that, because I'm a driven guy. I'm a competitive guy. I like to scale and win in business.
Yeah.
But man, if all you win is business, like if all you make is more widgets or more stuff,
Yeah.
like what have we actually done? And so I think the tension of making it count is make sure you don't confuse, activity and productivity with actually winning and going, hey, what's the stuff that will matter when the music fades, and to not live life. There's a famous book written decades ago by an executive out of Dallas named Bob Buford. He's now passed. He wrote a book called Halftime. And he
Mm,
describes like a classic case for someone wild success, hundreds of millions of dollars, huge telecom leader, and a good person, but a crisis. I believe he lost a child, had this crisis
mm.
moment where it caused him to reevaluate life. And he's like, geez, what have I been doing? Man, I'm gonna make the rest of my life about significance. And so he talks about this success to significance kind of pivot in his life.
That's good.
And I went, man, that was his description, but I don't want that to be my prescription. Like, I don't want
Come
to
on.
wait till I'm 45 or 55 or have a crisis to go, let me make up for it in the remaining years. Like, could I live with significance now? In fact, could I make significance intrinsic to my success?
Mm.
And I think the world tries to tell us like succeed and then go make impact.
That's right. I'll get there. I'll give more later. I'll spend
It's
more time with my family. I'll volunteer more. But of course, I've got to be on the grind now, or I'm in a season. Which I don't know
correct.
about you. You know what the killer to making a count is? Is this obsession with all of us saying something's a season, which I'm here to say that there's some truth to it being a season, and there are absolutely truths to going through tough seasons, good seasons. There's some truth to that,
Yeah, yeah.
but like this whole like I can't do this or I'm going to wait for that because I'm in a season.
Yes.
Don't you think that kind of crushes making it count?
So, I mean, you and I know the story where like my wife had to call me out at one point early in my career with this whole J curve thing.
Oh yeah,
Long story short, just to give context there, like had pitched my wife on launching a new department in a company and just, hey, it's gonna be really busy for 90 days for a season.
this season. Yep.
And there are those like sprints, right? And so I'd correctly set expectations, but she came back to me and she's like, hey, you actually believe this mumbo jumbo you tell me about this J curve where it's gonna be bad for a season and then it's gonna be this wonderful nirvana, rainbows, unicorns, have all this
Yeah.
time. And what she called me on, she called me a liar, but she's like, hey, I don't think you lied to me. I think you're lying to yourself. Like you actually
Come
believe.
on, everyone needs a Jackie.
Oh my gosh. It was such a like one of those like moments where like, okay, God, you literally put this woman in my life to hold up a mirror and help me see reality. Because it was done out of love, but it was
Of
like
course.
with brass knuckles. She her point, and I still vividly remember like time stood still. She said, you keep selling yourself that one day things just be like calm and peaceful and have all this margin. And she's like, I don't think you're actually wired for that. The reality is like
Mm,
you layer your J curves and every success is going to build another one. If it fails, you got to fix it. And I get that things are messy. I don't know that we're ever going to have that rocking chair life you keep selling me on until we're actually like literally in a retirement home.
yeah.
And she's like, and that's not a bad thing.
Mm,
Could we just stop living in suspended animation for this future day and figure out, could we start having like our marriage and our faith and our health? Could we build those things into the storm and not
yeah.
just say one day we'll get around to it? And that's when the tension gets real because it's one thing to put everything on layaway and just kind of keep swiping the credit card or like, I'll pay for that
Yeah.
later.
Because I don't have to deal with the tension until then, frankly.
Right. When you suddenly go, well, if I was actually going to try to start eating some of that now, paying for some of that now,
Yeah.
I got to really rethink about everything. And
Yeah.
that's when tension gets hard. I think artificially cutting it with the other side of the season
Yeah.
is just the lie of the enemy. That is what causes. I mean, you and I both have had the privilege of sitting with some pretty amazing people and pretty successful in an affluence perspective
Yeah. Right.
in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And what's the number one regret? Like, I wish I would have done things I'm doing now in my
Yeah.
20s, 30s, and 40s. And it was
Yeah.
never, I wish I would have made more money. I wish I would have made more time for these things. And
Yeah.
I think I've been gifted through circumstances, through a wife, and through moments where God's like, hey, like I I don't want to live with regrets of
Yeah.
I woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind having failed investments. I don't want to have failed relationships or failed life or have failed at like what matters most.
Come on, man. Love that. Boy, I mean, I feel like we need to slow down and just capture all the gold there, frankly. But like, yeah, I mean, in hearing you say, I think it's obvious for all of us we're never going to wake up and just say, okay, I've now done this thing. And so I've mastered the art of making an account. And now I'm channeled every minute of every day into making an account because, it's like that old hymn, like prone to wonder, Lord, I feel it. Like I always go back to that of just like, oh man, you even read scriptures and history about people's lives. And like we as humans, we just don't stay fully focused all the time. Even if we know truth, we wander from it, all these things. But I guess the question to you, Mike, before we go into your story, because your story kind of, I think in some ways answers it, but like, is the reason most human beings fall into the trap of it's a season, but I will have significance when I get there, and I'll change my ways when I get there. I'll focus when I get there. My relationship when I get there. Blah blah blah. That's what we all do. Like something is interwoven in us that we're all predispositioned, it seemed, to lean to that way. Is it that you have to have some big moment or life lessons in order to jar yourself free from that? Or like,
Mhm.
why is this?
I mean, I think it is the human predicament. I uh, I've been fascinated by biographies of great leaders, military, political, historical, biblical, studying like the life of Moses,
Mm,
and then going back to the Bible. So I think it's interesting. One of the top three commands in all the Bible, if you do it by like how many times it's repeated,
yeah.
is the command remember, don't forget. Remember, don't forget. It's like 300 times. So
No way. I didn't know that.
it's like 297 times that God literally sends an angel, like burning, like stop forgetting. I'm like, well, if we have to be told 300 times stop forgetting, I think it implies we're forgetful.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't have to tell us
And
to.
we've been that way for some thousands of years.
I don't
Not
think
it didn't just show up because of the internet.
Yeah, I don't think we can blame this on the internet or iPhones or America. I think those things may make it worse, but it's pretty endemic. And then I was fascinated by this Jewish tradition. Have you ever seen Orthodox Jews who walk around with like tassels on their garments?
Yeah, yeah.
That stems out of this little passage when Moses was about the people, like millions of people, about to go take over the promised land. Finally, they arrived. Like the J curve, the 40-year J curve is over. We get to go in. It's going to be awesome. It's actually not. It's going to be like nonstop battles and fights and hard work.
Yeah.
Like,
If only they knew.
yeah, we never actually arrive. That's the truth, right?
Oh,
It's always the battle. But he said, hey, when you go into this place, you were working 6 days a week. You have 10 kids. There's no government jobs. You're going to be busy. And God doesn't say, stop being busy. He doesn't say, why are you working? He literally says in Numbers 15, 37, 39,
mm,
when you go in, you will forget who you are, whose you are. You'll forget why you're here. Your heart will whore after other things as you're prone to do. And so he says,
mm,
put these tassels on your garments so that as you're working,
mm,
every moment of the day, you'll be reminded you're mine, you're here with a purpose, and live that purpose in that moment. And so I love
mm.
that God didn't say like spend 5 hours a day like meditating in some Om position. He was like, hey, I get it. You're gonna be hustling. You're gonna be working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forget who you are and what matters in those moments,
Yeah, man.
because it's just gonna be a grind sometimes. And so
Yeah.
making it count is only on weekends or retirement or after you can sell and liquidate and coast, like you'll never get it.
Come
But
on, dude.
to live in the moment. So I think that's the human condition, and we've got to stop lying to ourselves. Just like my wife said, hey, like when she first said you're a liar, I thought she was thinking I lied to her.
Yeah,
But she
yeah, yeah.
went, no, 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 you're lying to yourself. You actually think this is temporary. You actually think that.
Yeah,
That's
man.
such a good
Dude,
salesman.
I remember when you told me that whatever a year or two ago, and you have that wonderful main stage you did on that topic. But it's crazy because for me, and I would assume a lot of our listeners that are listen to this that are just like trying to figure out, I'm almost is it normalized to have this condition?
Mhm.
Because I still think I struggle with it, dude. Like
Mhm.
I still do believe that even as I sit here right now, if I'm honest, I have a feeling of certain areas like, oh, but if I get them there,
Mhm.
if I do this, if I do that, and I do think it's yeah, I'm always encouraged by two stories: the Israelite story,
Mhm.
right? Because like that whole story is just a bunch of forgetful people. Then you get into Deuteronomy, and it's like, hey, we got to remind you guys of all this stuff again, and like over and over, there's those reminders. And then I just think about like the founding of America,
Yeah.
and just like we like all we ever wanted was the freedom.
Mhm.
And like, yes, it's going to be so great. I mean, dying for it, and just anything and everything for it. And then we got it, and it got as messy as it always was. and it's crazy.
Relational cycle. You've seen that diagram. I'm obsessed with. I don't know who authored it, so I steal it and use it all the time. But it's like the whole thing of hard times create strong people. The
Mm,
fight, the struggle. Like, I mean, you and I would not be the leaders we were if we didn't go through a story that
yeah,
forged
man.
us. And then strong people typically create good times or successful businesses or good families or good moments, right? Eventually there's a fruit of that. But then good times tend to create weak people, soft people.
Come on.
Weak people and soft teams and soft countries create hard times again. And so it's like a
Yeah.
vicious cycle unless you figure out like how to stop the record and change the music. But
Yeah, man. Oh, could we go on a whole 30 minutes on where America is on that cycle? But we won't do it, Mike, because this is about your story, dude. So I want to bring us back. Attention to make an account. Like, I think everything we've discussed is so important foundationally of just making sure that we're all clear. Yet again, this is another tension. None of us have it solved. And the ones of us that are just doing okay with it are learning that we're just trying to manage it every day. Right. I mean, that's the point of this podcast.
yeah.
And so, what people don't know about you, Mike, or maybe if very few do, but I do, and you and I, as you just said, man, the Lord has given us really adverse things at young ages that we don't look around and see a ton of people have gone through. And I think we both believe He gave it to us for a reason to make it count, to have those reminders. I mean, you have a tattoo reminder, I got a brain surgery reminder, and these are reminders that the Lord helps us and put on us because we're dumb enough where we just forget like every other human. But like, if you don't mind, man, like for the weight of people understand how you are making it count every day and managing this tension, I think they need to know what you've been through. And so, in as much, Mike, as you're willing to share, and I don't want to interrupt you, I'd rather you just share your story, man. Like, give us kind of what has Mike been through in his life, and then we'll go through how in the world, after hearing that, are you not a jaded victim, just a bad person? And you're making a count today, but would you start with just giving us a little bit of your story?
Yeah. And just to reiterate how much I think this, like, I need this. Literally, like you mentioned. So you got the biological tattoo. I had to go get ink applied. So I prefer my method versus yours.
Yeah.
But literally, my forearm says "remember," and then it has an empty tomb radiating, just to remind myself, don't forget who you are, whose you are, and then
Yeah.
the empty tomb, because at some point, like, Jesus was in a tomb, and all of his disciples were like, "Shoot, we're screwed. This is over. We're wrong. Like, there's no hope." And the reality was, in the middle of the darkness where there's no hope was actually the birth of hope. Like God does his greatest work when things seem dark and hopeless. And it's my reminder to myself, like, hey, whenever you're in one of those moments, likely what is unseen is actually greater than what is seen, and there's more happening. So I preach that gospel to myself like all the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you and I both. People may listen to the podcast, read your book one day, see your business, see what I'm doing, lead this global organization, and they could be like, must be nice. Look at Travis's easy life. Look at Mike's easy life. And the lie of that is, like, you and I should be dead.
Truth.
We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be married. We shouldn't have these businesses. Like I am a trophy of God's grace. You are a trophy case of trophies of God's grace. And the reality is, grace is usually experienced through stuff that is sucky. So, we all, like, this isn't a pain club. So, grew up in Alaska, grew up, domestic violence. Earliest memories were of a biological father who was not a great dude, and some pretty nasty stuff happened in my home. So there were seeds, and you talk about me not being a bad person. Man, I spent 15 years with just hatred and, dad issues and resentment.
How could you not? Could you not?
Like, you want to get vengeance. So got that stuff, got multiple divorces growing up in my family, got things that kind of shattered my, like, what is love? What is truth? What is marriage?
What is loyalty? How
can you say, till death do his part, I love you, and then be like, I want to kill the person? Like, how do those things happen?
Yeah, especially as a kid.
Totally. Yeah. Was crippled from age 4 to 20 with an acute autoimmune disorder that had me in a wheelchair, had me on drugs. Just like, I had acute rheumatoid arthritis, like the old person disease, but I had it as a kid.
Yeah.
So at the time I was wrapping up high school, I was 18 with like a 70-year-old body, like cartilage in my spine, hips, knees. Like, I just old man, organ tissues all damaged. And, whenever you go through pain, whether it's like suffering, so I had disease, I had my mother had a ton of trauma in her life that she navigated, and then went through a traumatic brain injury on top of all that, and that just compounded stuff. That created some pretty dark moments. I had to navigate caregiving for her and doing correspondence school for myself. At that point, she was single moms for like Medicaid, food stamps, housing projects.
Yeah.
Plenty of dark nights where you're going, this isn't fair. As a kid, at least, most of those things you can be like, this isn't my fault. So
Yeah.
we've done plenty of dumb things. We're like, okay, it's foolishness.
Yeah. Right.
I was a legit victim of a lot of those things happening around me or to me that, man, you cry out to God to rescue you from and get out of.
Did you know the Lord during all this stuff?
I came to know him as a kid. So elementary years, went to a church one Sunday night, and a pastor was doing a message on grace and the gospel. And he said something that, again, by God's grace, just clicked. He said, hey, if you're striving to be good enough to be okay with God, just know, like, you never can be. Like, until you declare bankruptcy and just actually cry uncle that you literally don't have what it takes, that's the beginning of Jesus. And that's where like, he is all of it. And when he unpacked a little more of that, but I went, wait a minute, I'm trying to do my best to like be a good boy. Like
Yeah.
how can I be a good student, good son, good this? And those are good things, but then of themselves is a treadmill that just will never actually deliver salvation, will never deliver peace, never deliver healing. And so I was like, okay, bankruptcy, uncle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really do believe, like, man, my story would not be here without that, because in that, I feel like God began to, from an early age, allow me to separate and go, yeah, that sucks. That's horrible. It doesn't have to be that way. Hey, it could be different. And I began wrestling with, like, well, why am I here? I think that's part of making it count. It's like wrestling with calling. You have to first,
totally.
Is there a caller? And is there a plan? Is there a purpose?
Yeah.
And if there is, then figuring that out is probably essential to winning. Because what if I win at the wrong game? If I'm playing checkers and we're supposed to be playing chess, like, oh, whoa, the same board, but totally different game. Like,
Totally.
change of paradigm. So I went through some hard stuff. I went through some times where you're like, man, I don't know how we're going to get out of this, whether it's, just some pretty dark mental health stuff going on in my home world, or things that had me going, God, this is not fair, and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how many times going like, I can't hold this.
Yeah, it's 280.
280. You can't see more than like 2 feet in front of you where things go. No grand plan. And yet, I later, I think actually just like 3 or 4 years ago, I found this verse in the Bible in a minor Jewish prophet named Nahum, but it said sometimes God's way is in the whirlwind and in the storm, and sometimes the cloud on the horizon is actually the dust of his feet. Just beautiful poetic language. Like sometimes what just feels like a total blender, God's actually forging something, leading you somewhere. And sometimes what just seems like disaster on the horizon is actually like his preparation for a future. And so I'm here. I didn't die. I didn't commit suicide. I didn't follow in all the different things. But in all that, I also experienced like sometimes just manna. So to use an old biblical term, the Israelites, when they're traveling through the wilderness.
Yep.
And I've taken my family to the wilderness. We've actually done the route of Moses through the Sinai Peninsula.
Oh, wow.
And it is like, it's like West Texas. It's like nothing worth seeing. And I remember my wife saying, we're like driving with our kids, and she's like, oh my gosh, I would have been one of the grumbling Israelites who got killed. Like, this is miserable. Walking with kids here, like, this is miserable. And there was no way to like farm or shop. There's no HEB.
Right.
And God literally each day provided food, but just enough for that day. Like, never enough for the next day, just enough for that day. And so much my growing up years was God being manna for me. Like, I'll give you enough strength for today. And be like, okay, but what about tomorrow? Yeah, we'll work on that tomorrow. Yeah. And through enough of those things, I think you eventually get a little less afraid of the darkness.
Yeah.
you get a little, it's not self-confidence, but you get a little more confident. Like, I can go through garbage and like, we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of unhealthy stuff. I mean, I had, um, still in recovery on different ways you cope and survive those moments. I don't like for you, but I had numerous moments where I made some vows that became dirty fuel for my life. So I made things like, I'm never going to be broke. I'm never going to be vulnerable. I'm never going to be hurt.
Yeah.
I'm never going to
Yeah.
the garbage I saw, which is great, but it still had me kind of like anchoring my identity in an anti-story. Like, I'm just,
Totally.
I'm just not going to be that.
And you become the hero, which is scary.
So that's got its own dysfunction, and that creates
Been
RP
there.
too high, and my
Yep.
family paid the price, teams paid the price. Been times where I just like worked way too
Yeah.
hard trying to prove somebody wrong or to not become a shadow.
Oh, dude. Totally.
I think part of as we think about like making a count, I think I think there's a couple different ways you respond, and we don't all do it cognitively. But
Yeah.
this, I think it's an invitation to is like you get some people who go through garbage, and most of us have some sort of story. Like, I'm not
Totally.
sure humans don't have some sort of garbage in the past. You either can bury it and just run away and act like it's not there. But the reality is it is there and it's affecting you. So if you don't know yourself, it's pretty hard to lead yourself. And if you think it's not affecting you, then then you haven't even began to do the work. It's like you got to know yourself to lead yourself, deal with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes dirty fuel that even in a cool engine that God's forged, it just gums things up.
Yeah.
And I've had numerous times where I almost blew a rod in the motor of my life because of the dirty fuel of unaddressed story stuff.
Come on, dude.
And it's sneaky, it's sinister, and it hijacks destiny. It hijacks good missions, good purposes.
Yeah.
It just pushes things a little too far, redlines you a bit much. Um, so I think figuring out how to confront the past and figure out where there are lies I took from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether people lies said to you or lies you believed, um,
Yeah.
vows made, where are walls you put up that were like, frankly, I left high school saying like, obviously I'm clearly not a prophet. I said I'm never going to live in Texas. Ironic. I never want to work for a stinking church. Did that, and I'm
Yeah.
probably never going to be married
Oh, geez.
because I'd rather be single the rest of my life than be stuck in a miserable marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of what you saw, I mean, the worst thing in some ways could be marriage.
Yeah, so I was like, well, just don't do that. Just don't do
Yeah.
those things. And so you
Mm.
put all these kind of guards up around like preservation of self and insurance of pieces, and then fear of like, gosh, am I going to repeat patterns? And so
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat that pattern, then run this way.
Yeah.
And you, for a little while, get rewarded for those things. Like the world applauds, and because sometimes it
Sure.
manifests in just hustle,
Totally.
self sufficiency. Um, but man, it's dirty fuel, and it eventually wrecks you.
Yeah. So, Mike, first of all, thanks for sharing all that, man. So, if I'm a listener and maybe I don't have everything from being in a wheelchair to seeing domestic abuse to seeing all these divorces to seeing all this stuff that you grew up with, I mean, all that compounded is one of the reasons I love you because I think that, yeah, I mean, you're only removed some 20, 25 years from these types of things. And I've only seen the version of you that literally has zero victim, zero. Yeah, I mean, we've all got sin and things we're doing that we need to do better every year, but you don't seem to let that stuff define you in the unhealthy way that
Mhm.
I think most that I meet that have, their own baggage, but maybe it's not all of that stuff seems to define them. They've got this thing that they've never dealt with. So is the first step to making it count and frankly, even managing the tension is admitting that all this bad things happen and some of them quite literally can be, as much as I love to say don't be a victim, everything that happens for you and not to you. Yes, there's truth to that, and I still think that's a good quote. But I do think when you're a kid, some things you don't have a say, like you say, they do just happen to you, and you're just sitting there holding the bag. Like, walk me through. Do you think the first step is you're never going to make it count if you can't deal with what are you even living life for? Because
Yeah.
if it's just to rectify all the bad, you're not actually making anything count. You're just living this storyline like you were talking about that eventually will run dry when you get wise enough to have self-awareness.
Yeah. I'm going to quote people. Most things I say that are smart are someone else said. I just don't remember who to give credit to. So someone says, I'm like, we all die. Not everybody really lives. I think the early vows of just like not failing or not becoming like that or not hurting again is a really shallow substitute for like living, truly living. And I think sometimes you have to do an exercise. Like I shared with my own organization last week. There's some different tools you can use, but if you stop and just do even like a story mapping thing, it can be as simple as going back and say, hey, like just sit down and think about like some of the highest cool things in your life. Cause I also had incredible experiences
Totally.
in Alaska and mountain scenes, and mom told me she loved me a lot. I mean, there's all sorts of cool things. There's highs and then there's these lows. And if you kind of plot them out through some different kind of promptings and you begin to look at patterns and begin to go, hey, where did this create things you believe strongly, things you fear strongly? What were the lies? Where does the enemy most try to lie to you? Where can you see the hand of God trying to woo you? Sometimes when you step back and look at that, you start realizing, well, this is why on my worst days, I'm prone towards these bad things. This is why I chase these things. This is why I'm sensitive to these topics. At my best, here's the gift of those. Like I wouldn't wish my dark days on my kids. And yet the kind of paradox of parenting is, man, my faith and my confidence in what God can do and what matters is forged by the dark nights of the soul, not by the easy days.
Come on.
So, you wouldn't want your daughters to go through brain surgery, and yet how powerful you are as a person, a leader today versus 15 years ago, it's hard to imagine getting from here to there without.
That's right. That's right.
So we all have to have them. It's then like, you can either fixate them. So some people who like navel gaze too much and you let your issues define you. Or like
That's
that,
right.
Like I am a victim of alcoholism, got that. Victim of sexual abuse, victim of all these things, like legit trauma.
Yeah.
You got to own those things, walk through those things, but you don't let them define you. And the way you don't defined by them is actually tell the truth about them.
Come on, dude.
So you got to confess about them. Go, I had to go forgive people who didn't ask for forgiveness, but I needed to forgive them. I've told you the story. You were with me when I went and finally met my biological dad. And it wasn't a Hallmark movie because I sit down with him at, in a bar in California. I'm like, hey, I want to forgive you. I had this beautiful romantic moment. Like, I'm going to forgive him, release him. He's going to cry. We're going to hug. And
of course, yeah.
In the moment, he's like, what do I need to forgive him for? Like, I remember it went so awkwardly. I was like, maybe actually the whole point is I need to forgive you. Whether or not you need to receive it, like it's about my freedom. It's like do the work and then begin wrestling like, okay, God, how will you use all that? And I think it's interesting. Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book David and Goliath, and he looked at like a wild percentage of epic, prime ministers, generals, leaders who did cool stuff at a national level. They all either lost a parent or had catastrophic illness or nearly died in their adolescent years or earlier. Like they all had scar tissue, and either they let the scar tissue define them, and, a wreck, or they let it forge them and create like a steeliness, a grittiness. And I think that's the invitation those things represent for us. But then to go, okay, God, how would you want to use this? Like, how do I get back on who you've created me to be, free of fear?
Yeah.
And realize, man, I've got gifts and talents. God's got unique purposes He's called me to do.
Yeah.
And the past is actually a gift for that. If I can like pull the good from it and be honest.
Well, one of you and I's dear friends, Mark McLean, one time I was in a mentorship session with him and he said something pretty doggone good that I think relates here. And he said, in effect, if some of these things happen to you, to deny that it's weight, you're never going to get anywhere. So let's all just admit that it's weight. You can call it bag, you call it whatever, but you're holding a bag that has some level of weight. And I think what you're saying and what he has said is your choice is then to where do you place the weight? Because weights, you can use that same power out, and now that becomes a part of your punch when you go to punch, right? Or you can let it weigh you down, and now you're holding it, and it really is the almost the couple step process of, you got to see that it's there. You got to admit that it's weight that will never go away. You can't counsel your way away from it being weight. It will always sit there and rest on you forever. What do you do with the weight? And I think for me, that's always been so powerful, because to your point, the bigger the weight, the bigger the opportunity, right?
Totally.
I mean, all the leaders you're saying, it's a lot of weight.
Well, there's a mindset shift used at the beginning of the podcast. Another C12 buddy gave me a book to read years ago that I was like, ooh, that's the best language I've seen for it. It had this 2 triangles. And said, you can either walk through life with a victim mindset where you've got perpetrators, you got problems, you got, I'm being attacked, I'm suffering, illness, economy, villains, whatever. And I need a rescuer. I'm going to win the lottery. I need a better, who can get me out of this because I'm a victim? Or you can go, I'm a co-creator. I'm created to be I have agency in life, and I've got challenges, problems, opposition. Like, you don't, again, it's not about sugarcoating. It's just framing. Am I a victim where I need rescued? Or am I a co-creator where I need coaches? I need help. I need tools. And I'm going to do battle with that. I'm going to overcome that.
Yeah.
That's a total mindset shift. And too many people live in a victim mindset where it's just, I'm another victim of another bad relationship, another bad this, another bad. And you're like, hey, at some point, like, you're the common denominator.
Yeah.
Pick up the pen and start going, okay, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
The story is just going to spiral into a bad movie. And so I think a chance to change the script.
Totally. So Mike, talk to me on let's, if we can, we'll just stay on the divorce topic.
Okay.
Or even seeing the domestic violence, these things. I get the first reaction before I would say you went to make it count mode, which was, like you said, I will never, big statements, right?
Yep.
And we've all been there. My goodness, if I had time to tell you all the times, for me, even to this day, I probably need to look at my life on those things. But for the person listening, that's like, dang, I'm glad this podcast exists, because they're putting language to things, and maybe they're seeing and accepting some tensions around this that they hadn't before.
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you go from the Mike Sharrow that, effectively had a little bit of that, I will not, and I am the hero, and I will this, and this, that was actually fine. And it was at least headed in a direction that wasn't bad, but it wasn't the direction, to being in the most comfortable spot of, hey, I've done that work. I'm now in this spot of how I see this idea of making accounts and the truth about it. Can you give any of the listeners a little bit of a how-to if they feel a little stuck right now in this?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to settle for the false healing of a bunker where I thought I was a hero by living in a tower. But the difference between a tower and a prison it's just like creature comforts. So it's not really freedom if you can't leave the castle. And so doing the work to, the Bible talks about walk in truth, walk in light. And when we walk in the light and actually see things, it says even then others are able to help us with issues. And so I think when you begin to actually bring things to light and not just throw it away and bury it, you get a chance to start seeing things in a different perspective. So on the marriage side, so I meet my Jacqueline, we're dating. I'm like, gosh, darn it. If I ever was to get married, it'd probably go like that.
Yeah.
But I literally took her to a Denny's one night and was like, hey.
That's classy, Mike.
Nothing but, I thought you get the Grand Slam. You can get whatever you order off the,
boy, Jackie, good for you. Denny's, huh? That's what stole your heart. Sorry, keep going, Mike.
Yeah. I wooed her with the finest of dining. And though we just went to Morton Steakhouse this last weekend. Thanks.
Wow.
To you. Yeah.
Well, you guys are moving up in the world of your date nights. That's good to hear.
Right. Yeah. So we're at Denny's, and I said, hey, so I like you, you like me. We've even said we love each other. We're obviously dating with the thought this thing could end up in a long-term relationship. Well, let's just be real candid. Look at my family tree and look at your family tree. And between the two families is a dozen divorces. And what makes us think? And I told her, my confession was, hey, here's what I'm scared of.
Yeah. I don't think good for freaking you, though, to say whatever it is you're about to say. That might be the answer to your question, everybody, what he's about to say, but keep going.
Oh, yeah. No. So as I said, I think the secret to our, me having a marriage that's 24 years now is actually what we just discovered after this little fear conversation. I went, I don't think I'm more sincerely love you, have better intentions for you, are more sincerely in love than our family members. Like they all at some point were at this exact same place of affection, infatuation, and
Totally.
aspiration and intention. Half more decent people, half went to church. They're educated. Like I don't
Yeah.
think I'm smarter or more sincere. So what in the world makes us think we will end up in the same place? And she, being a bit more of an optimist, was like, well, why don't we go study and figure out like how do good people end up miserable? Like what ruined it? And so we started doing
Wow.
it's like literally interviewing marriages in our family, be like, hey, where did the cracks start? Not like, well, don't have an affair, don't get addicted, don't become a gambler, don't like, yeah. No one wakes up saying, I think I'm gonna blow my life up. Like
Yeah.
where did
Yeah.
the cracks start? And here was we did like a months of reading, research, interviews, and here's was our big conclusion.
I want to know.
Nobody knows what the heck they're doing. We basically said, here's our conclusion. We looked through all the stories and went, I don't know how to be a husband. You don't know how to be a wife.
Yeah.
I have fears. You've got fears. I've got appetites and hopes. You get appetites and hopes. None of us actually know what it looks like. And if we saw a picture, we're like, ooh, I like that couple. That picture is my idyllic. We have no clue how to do that.
Yeah.
And so what if we just like salvation for me started declaring spiritual bankruptcy? What if we just declare like total ignorance? Like we don't know what the heck we're doing.
Come on.
Instincts are inadequate. Our intuition is inadequate and flawed. I'm a jerk. I'm selfish. I'm sinful. I've got issues. I can't even name all my issues. She's got issues I don't know about. She doesn't know about. Can we just actually assume that as our baseline?
Come on.
And start seeking out wisdom and counsel. So starting out like counseling and books and conferences and said, what if we attacked our life with the same way we approach our careers? Because most of us you take CE credits for your licenses, right?
Sure.
FINRA requires stuff and SEC requires stuff. Like generally in our careers, we get a degree, we take classes, we go to masterminds, we go to conferences, you have to read up on industry news. Like we invest a lot in professional success. Most of us only go to counselors, coaches, and courses on parenting and marriage and our souls when things are in like 911 ditch mode.
Yeah, that's where my mind was going but make the point.
But that's the stuff that actually matters and affects our whole life.
Those are the things that you want to make count.
Right. You want like those are areas you care about, and yet we do all those things by gut and intuition. We drive by braille and bounce off the rumble strips of life and are surprised. And so we just made a vow of like, why don't we just proactively and then sometimes reactively? And so whether that's counseling because we got pain or coaching and resources because we just want to get better. And we just kept trying to turn more and more lights on and say, let's just assume my gut is not a great guide. Like I think my pastor says your emotions are great gauges. They're demonic governors. Like do not let your gut govern your life. Just let it get back.
Dude. Well, I mean, you just said the entire point of both this specific podcast and why we decided to launch the tension in general is I'm convinced the most wise, and if you want to go fulfilled, you can go fulfilled, you can go happy if you want to use those terms, people that I know are the ones that actually can acknowledge most everything out there. They have no clue and they will never solve. And I just think when you start there, what a blast, like, I mean, you can just have a real ball in the pursuit of managing it, knowing that there has to be a bigger answer, which is a totally different discussion we can have. That's what I love about it, because all the big stuff always is managed. And so there has to be one answer. And I think there's just the one answer that is over all of these tensions. And we're never called to have solves, or we wouldn't need the one answer. But I preached a little bit there. But like, I think it's just, I don't know, man, like what you just said is so valuable to me, because I'm thinking of all the areas right now. I'm asking myself, where are the areas that I am still putting the facade? I like what Jackie told you in that story. I'm lying to myself,
yes,
and thus to the world, that no, my gut's good and all this. And here's what's scary, man. We've been going in my church, Second Chronicles, Second Kings, these type of things, and you hear some of these kings, and some of them like did an okay job, some of them are terrible. But every time these guys get comfortable,
yes,
and they get older, and they get like they don't have the like, oh, Lord, I got no idea in my youth, please help me. And it's like, no, I'm awesome. Look at my kids, and look at my kingdom, and look at my wealth, and look at the wars I've won, blah, blah, blah. They get that level of like, I forgot. Like, or they even go as arrogant as, I not only trust my gut, I've solved the problem because I'm so great,
Totally.
which is so freaking dangerous, right?
You mentioned Mark McLean earlier, total baller. I regularly, Marvel, I've been with Mark in groups for like 14, 15 years. And one of the things that struck me, part of why he, leads a whatever bazillion-dollar company.
Yes. $1 trillion.
$1 trillion. But here's what I find, like, don't give him a big head, but when we're in groups together and we're talking about our business and life and such,
Yeah.
he's most faithful to be there, most faithful to like diligently come. Like he reads every word. He's actually he's got more like people vice presidents. He's got more millions in the business than most of us have got people. And yet he's going, where can I be better? Am I doing this? Have I looked at this? Am I taking this for granted? Like he's always humble enough to be asking like, what am I not seeing?
Yeah.
What's not true? How can I be better? And I've been in the table when like someone around a $2, $3, $4 million company is like, I know all this. I got this. I'm like, the reason he runs a bazillion-dollar company and you run a $3 million company is because he never stops asking what's going on in me. Where can I be a better leader? Like he's always looking in the mirror for a new insight to then go, how do I go lead others better? And he finds his success in helping others be successful.
Yeah, man. So, Mike, I want to close with this, although I wish we had an hour more because I don't even think we've scratched the surface on this. And I think there's just such gold. And so I hope if you're listening out there, like you two know that, you know a little bit of my story, you now know Mike's story. Like, gosh, you do have choices, and we all have to go to the baggage claim, so to speak, in life. You got to pick that stuff up, and what you choose to do with it is what you choose to do with it. And I hope you've heard from Mike, just so many pieces of wisdom, and just thoughts that I'm even leaving here. Like, dang, I'm just stirred to start to think through even deeper in my own life today. But Mike, like, last bit of the podcast here, so many places we've gone. If you had one final hoorah, hey, everyone out there, now that you now know you will never solve the riddle of making every hour and every minute count, because we will wonder and you will have bad days and moments. What is this is how you actually manage this tension. This is the charge. This is what you want to leave the people with.
You're created with purpose, and you will be intrinsically by design dissatisfied until you actually step into that. And that's something good to go discover. You don't get to decide it. Do the work of your story. I had a mentor who once asked me, like, why are you so driven? I told him it's because I'm, I care and mission and this. And he's like, yeah. What else is also true? What's the thing below the thing that's hijacking that truth? And for me, it was my story. And so I'd say, if you've not done the archaeology to go, hey, where is there undealt with stuff hijacking my story? Go do the work, bring it into light with fear, with faith, with truth. And in the freedom from that, you'll actually get the power of leveraging all those gifts. That pain becomes a gift. And if you can figure out with clarity, like, I need daily reminder, why do I exist? Even if it is a dark night, another storm, another crisis, it doesn't make you invincible, immune. It just changes the way you navigate those things. And so I would say, do the work to know how your story is affecting you. Turn pain into gifts. Figure out your purpose. And your purpose doesn't require a context change. Like, I used to think, does my vocation and place need to change? My purpose changes everywhere I'm at. I don't need the place to change. I need to be healthy.
Let's go. Well, everybody, I hope that you got as much as I did out of that. And y'all know that's why we do it. You are now in the midst of two people that are just trying their best. And even today, I'm convinced both Mike and I will have minutes and moments. We won't make it count. And we'll have to go back to the reminders, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board, because that's, I guess, the human condition. But hey, we're all in it together. And we thank you for listening. And Mike, thanks for being on the podcast, buddy.
My joy, man.